What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex.
I'm Christina.
And today we're going to talk about episode 6, Meet Me in Daegu.
Here we go.
For Lovecraft Country.
Woo!
Right now. All right, guys, so we're back to talk about Lovecraft Country, episode 6, and what did you think, Christina? Did you enjoy this episode?
I enjoyed this episode. It was a really straightforward episode.
Very straightforward, yeah.
So it was
probably the most straightforward we've had, other than maybe like the first episode.
Right, but again, that first episode, it was all over the place. This one, it kind of just like goes back. It's like independent from the other episodes.
Which we get to see Gia this time, who has been Tick's love interest for the past, before he got back from the war.
The past love interest.
Which is a really interesting kind of story, and we'll talk about more about what happened. But what did you think about like the feel of the episode?
It was cool to see the war aspect of it, because he kept talking about the war, and yes, it was alluding to her, but it was weird to see.
Way more than we thought.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, I didn't expect where it was going to go where it was going.
Yeah, and that's another thing I liked about this episode. It was unexpected things with her mother and stuff. It was really unexpected.
Some nice tricks.
Right.
Like ones that you don't make you feel stupid.
Right. Right.
Which we see in some movies. It's like, all right.
Oh, duh.
Anyway, but yeah, no, I actually kind of enjoyed this episode, but it wasn't like, it's a very acquired taste, I think, for some people, because the format of how they're doing this is so all over the place. And as some of you already know, the book was written to kind of fill in the gaps where, white people didn't actually write in black people into the different wonderful movies that we got. And the history that we were, maybe you and I were raised with, that they were left out of. So this is like an attempt to do all these different genres that they are not a part of, to make them a part of it, which is pretty great. But it, to the regular viewer, may kind of be schizophrenic and like kind of all over the place for some people. So, but I still think it's a well done show. I think it's interesting. And I wonder at some point what's going to happen if this show does well enough that they're going to do a season 2. And I've never read the book, so I don't know how far that goes and like how many chapters that has. So maybe they'll just make up all new lore.
It seems like it go in a lot of different directions, because this story wasn't really like a Lovecraft lore. It's a Korean.
Oh, you mean this episode?
Yes, I meant this episode.
Oh, okay. No, it seems to grab onto a lot of different legends and stuff like that,
Right.
Real legends, who knows, right? Right. I mean, is it real or not,
Right.
What are the legends based off of? We'll get into that more. You guys probably know we're talking about the nine-tailed fox, but we'll talk about what that is. I got some info on that.
Oh, good.
That I was really interested in, because if you're a fan of Naruto, you might know about that as well.
I have no idea what that is.
It's an anime, but yeah, we'll get into it more. So we get started off with this first episode with Meet Me in St. Louis playing, which is Judy Garland singing, ding, ding, ding goes a trolley.
And I gotta say, that was good.
Were you dancing with me? I wasn't really.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, damn it. I thought we were doing it in unison for a second.
No.
Okay.
Well, I think I tilted my head.
Oh, all right,
that's
maybe.
about it. But I gotta say, because Judy Garland's in this well, she's like kind of in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they didn't even mention Wizard of Oz, and I really appreciate that, because everybody knows that's like the only thing she's like known.
Right. Well,
for.
I mean, the whole series and the whole book and everything is kind of like about the stories we didn't hear.
Right.
Which there's a lot about Judy Garland that we didn't hear.
Right.
A lot of hatred towards her, and it's very prevalent.
Right.
Towards the character Gia, who is embracing their flaws and the things that people think about them, and then changing it for themselves, not for other people.
Right.
That's like the whole thing, because they started out with Judy Garland talking about, well, they have a scene in there where she's talking.
Right.
Of course, Gia is watching the movie in the theater with singing by herself. She's like really into it. And she's never been to America, so she has no idea what it's like over there. So it's kind of naive in a way, but an innocent naivety. You know what I mean? And this is, of course, Tick's ex. So they fast forward after that to a speed dating session. Well, they have a little intimate moment with the mom and her, showing how poor she is.
Right.
Because they're living off of kimchi.
And she lost her father.
Right.
They didn't say then, yeah.
They were talking about how you're going to bring, she's like, I'm going to college, to study. And she's like, that's how I'll bring respect back to the family. And she's like, no, when you bring home a man, you will. And it's like, ooh. I mean, that is the times.
Right.
Especially in those days, back in the 50s.
Right. In different cultures, too.
Plus, you could see how poor they are. I mean, they're living off kimchi, which isn't exactly...
I love kimchi.
Yeah, I know. Christina's recently,
I eat it every day.
She's never had it before, and then suddenly we got it at Costco.
Like, oh my God, this is so good.
It smells, though.
Every day. I don't care. I love it.
I like pickled shit, so whatever. But anyway, we fast forward to a speed dating, which I didn't even know they had that as a thing in the 50s. Did you?
I think it started then. But that pissed me off because the men had a chart.
Right. They were like, well, we'll see if you're worth it.
Right.
Not worried about whether or not they're worth it.
And then to X them out like right in front of her.
Right.
In front of him. I was like,
I thought that was a cool little transition though between each one, and like one guy gives her shit for being a part of like, US culture, and cuz he's like obviously knows the history behind all this stuff.
Right.
And how they're like pretty much running the country almost at that point in time, and it was like not as sweet and peaches as history tells everybody. There was like a lot of like rape and shit like that, and all kinds of fucking things that come along with like being part 2 of the country. You know what I mean? But then she gets that guy who knows about Judy Garland, and there is talk that maybe that guy is actually gay because he knows about Judy Garland, not just because of that, but because of his reaction. Like, why would he turn her down and not circle her and then go for her other friend who's the prettier? It saves him face a little bit.
Yeah.
Which that's what some people are saying.
Oh,
and he may be a later on character that we meet later, or maybe it's not that way. I'm not saying one way or the other, but that's just what some people have said.
That's weird. I wouldn't get that impression just because a guy likes Judy Garland. I wouldn't even get that impression.
No. They're not just saying that, but there are people who have said that Judy Garland is like gay guys, whatever.
Well, yeah.
You know,
she was.
Right. But I'm just saying this is what other people said. I don't know. Maybe that makes sense. Because it is weird that they bond on this like very specific level, and he X's her instead of circles her. Thought that was really weird.
I don't.
And then he goes for the girl that doesn't want him, but I guess that's nature of human beings, right? We always want what we can't have.
Right.
So, but she ends up going to the bar later that night because the guy who he picked her best friend, who I thought at first she didn't like. Because
the best friend?
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't.
And then they became best friends, and then she invited her to the bar, and she's like, no, my mother wants me to bring home a man tonight, and if I don't bring home a man tonight, then I'm not allowed to come back home, essentially. And she's like, well, sometimes we have to do things for ourselves and not our mothers.
Right. And it's so cool, like, at that moment, you think it's just a stereotypical, she needs to be with a man.
Right.
And then we come to find out
she's out on the prowl, being a woman, like being a real woman for a change, doing her thing.
No, the mom wants her to bring home men because.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, she kind of like comes to and is just like, all right. And then she brings home that guy who's a suit. Right. And he's probably some bad guy. Right. Because she seems to want to kill the.
Well, when she finally they were doing it and she killed him and she was sucking in his memories. Wasn't he like beating his children or something?
I don't know. I remember him climbing a mountain because he was like, yeah! And she was like, yeah! And he's pops. Which I love because like you said, like the fact that you're like, oh, she's bringing home a man to get married. I'm like, wait, they got to fuck to get married? Like,
oh, nay.
Yeah, like, is this what this is all about? Like, and then I'm like, oh, holy shit.
It's a hair tentacle sex blood explosion.
Yeah, I was like, this shit went hentai, but towards the men, which is rare. Usually it's like women being torn apart by tentacles. Well, these are tails, but, we find out later. But it looked like tarantula tails or some shit like that. Did you notice?
Yeah. And did you notice that when she ripped that guy apart, the first guy, she mimicked his scream?
Right. Well, it's because
that was crazy.
She's
she
not
was
only
sucking in all the memories.
She's not just taking their soul; she's taking on their persona.
Right. It's
and there's like multiple personas in there with the goon. What is it? Kumiho.
Kumiho.
Yeah.
Kumiho. Right. Right.
So Kumiho is the culmination of all these things, which we find out, later what that's all about. Her mom walks in right after he explodes, like immediately, and she's like, "Hey, 10 more." 10 more. So we find out Kumiho is a spirit that is infected by order of the Mudang, which the mother ordered this witch.
Shaman?
It's a shaman.
Shaman.
Yeah, but Mudang
wrong.
is a shaman.
Yeah, it's a shaman.
Right. So, but the female ones of those have the power to put animals into people. Mm-hmm. These legendary creatures and these summon creatures change.
Possession.
Yeah, sort of. Like, yeah. I did a little bit of research on it because immediately, if you guys know Naruto, you're like, hey, Nine-Tailed Fox, what the fuck? I know what that is. Well, in the story of Naruto, which is a Japanese tale, it's a kitsune, the Nine-Tailed Fox, and his parents put it in his stomach before they die, who were these leaders. His father was a leader and his mother wasn't, but they put this in him before they died, before they were taken over. And so ensues this whole story where he can kind of use the Kumiho or the Kitsune to have powers and stuff. And they're very similar because it started in China, guys. Then Korea adapted it, and then Japanese legend as well. These are Chinese myths dating back centuries before it was introduced into Korean mythology.
Let's make it true.
They call the Korean version the Kumiho. It shares very many similarities with the Chinese one, called the Hulu Jing, which is the Chinese one, and then the Japanese, which I mentioned, Kitsune. What we find out, the reason why that this Mudang, aka shaman woman, put this fucking spirit in her is because she was sexually abused by her father. And the mother put this on her when she was a child to exact revenge on him. But in doing so, also cursed her, which is like bit much.
I know. She should have just murdered her husband herself.
Like, but maybe she was worried about the consequences of doing so. Not that, fucking your daughter's pretty couth. But I'm just saying, like, there may be, she couldn't do that because of some sort of belief. I don't know. Supposedly, this Nine-Tailed Fox actually preys on people of bad people, sometimes specifically men. It can transform, among other things, into a beautiful woman, which they even did in Naruto, because Naruto had the ability to do, I forget what they called the word, but he did this spell, which made him turn into a girl and, like, swoon men.
Shapeshifters.
Yeah, there was kind of like a shapeshifter. She could seduce boys and eat their liver or heart, depending on the legend. But to go deeper into it, because I found this really interesting, the most distinctive feature that separates the Kumiho from the two Japanese Kitsune and the Chinese Hulu is the existence of the Yeowu Gunswell, which literally means fox marble head, apparently, which is said to consist of knowledge. And according to Korean mythology, the Yeowu Gesul provides power to Kumiho and knowledge and intelligence to people if they can steal and swallow one. So by her putting one in, she gave her knowledge and power. That's why Jia is probably afraid to get rid of it, because in some ways
she's gonna lose all that.
She's gonna lose
and
that
everything she's sucked in.
Yeah, who she's lived herself as multiple people, like 99 people,
right?
Because she's got to get 100, right? So, but the Kumiho can absorb humans' energy with it. The method of absorbing energy, the Yeowu Gesul, resembles a deep kiss using the tongue. And the Kumiho sends the Yeowu Gesul into people's mouths and then retakes it with their tongues.
Oh, okay.
If that person swallows a Yeowu Gesul, however, then they observe the skyland and people. Each observation gives the observer preternatural knowledge. So I would assuming what she experiences, which is she sees the future. Thought that was kind of interesting.
That's interesting.
So I guess that's why
deep.
She's seeing the future.
Right.
And when she runs into the Mudang or the shaman, She's kind of surprised. Also, if you guys are interested in this stuff, there's plenty of films about it apparently in Korea. Specifically, there's a movie from 1994. It's a horror movie called The Fox with Nine Tails. Pretty simple to remember. And it's even in some video games like StarCraft and a game called Okami, which I actually own and have never played.
Oh, well, I guess you better play it on your Twitch.
Yeah, let's spread some dudes apart, huh? There's a lot of drama, like romantic movies as well in Korea about it as well. But
well, that makes sense.
Back to Lovecraft, though, country. Sorry, I get on these tangents.
So then she meets Atticus in a
horrible
way.
She does, but she goes on a walk with her friend who she says she finds out she's a communist. Which is a big deal. And her friend is like, holy shit, you can't tell anybody. And she's like, I don't care. I'm different too. Why would I tell on you?
Right.
You're a good person.
Now it's what we've been taught. We have to question. But anyway.
Right. Well, if you help somebody nowadays, it's communism in America. Did you just give that person change? You fucking communist! I'm just kidding. Anyway. I'm just teasing, but yeah, that's how crazy people get. Anyway, Gia and the nurses she works with, because she's a nurse, they all get lined up by the U.S. military. They're like, we know somebody's a spy. There's been leaking information that only your shift would know about. And we whittled it down to your shift. So who's the fucking communist? Who's the fucking spy?
Bam!
And they shoot one, like, bam. Like, bam. I'm like, holy fuck, yeah, that's pretty. I was like, God damn, but this wasn't even the most tragic part.
Right.
His gun jams on the second one. And he's like, hey, come over here. We need a new gun or whatever, And it's fucking Tick.
Yeah.
And he's just like, blow! I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And it's like sprays all over Gia. And then Tick's literally about to shoot Gia, which is this weird dynamic of their relationship. That he's about to kill her because he's being told to, because like her mom, which is they make a big point about, that they're both monsters, part of the machine that they don't want to be.
Right.
But they're just part of it, even though they're good people.
Right. Yeah.
And her best friend steps in front of her. She was like, it was me. There's even, and this is the thing we saw in that flashed forward that we were talking about with Gia, when she finally has sex with Tick, where the tails come out. Right. So the final time that they have sex, there's a flash of him pulling out her tooth.
Teeth. Yeah.
Her best friend's tooth.
What the fuck?
And that's pretty fucking gnarly, dude.
Yeah.
That's dark.
I wanted to see more.
Makes you not like Tick so much.
No.
I mean, he wins you over, but goddamn.
No. And I hate that excuse where it was like, I had to. Like, it was my job.
Yeah. That was pretty crazy. I was like, goddamn, Tick. Like, see, that's why I could never just follow orders, but they break you down back,
right.
Especially back in the day in the military, they will break any sort of individualism that you might have
right.
as a soldier, to make you
obey,
literally. Like, it is
to do their bidding.
And it is a form of.
Are you saying it's a cult?
Yeah, a murder cult. Depends where you swing, I guess. Anyway, Gia decides that of course Tick's going to be the next victim, the 99th, or no, the 100th.
Yeah, the 100th.
Yeah, because she kills some other guy between.
Right.
She pops some other dude.
Blood explosion.
Yeah, we need some poppers for this. We thought it'd be our horror shot for this one, for this episode. But Tick sort of woos her into the book of the Count of Monte Cristo, and she shows interest. Like, oh, I already read that book, and he's like, how do you know it? You've already read it? And she tells him the end of the story. He's like, I only have a few chapters left. Can you read it for me? And she's like, oh, this, and this. Blah. And he's like, yeah, that's if you watch the movie.
That's the movie.
But the book is a little different.
Yeah.
So, this is that bond. So he woos her over the course of like a couple of weeks or something like that, right? There was even that scene where one of Tick's soldier friends, who's also Korean, he went to America to live and became American. He's not accepted there in America. Because she makes a comment. She was like, oh, have you met Judy Garland? And he's like, they both laugh, and he's like, I don't mean to be rude by laughing. He's like,
yeah, but I would be her butler, and he would be
the driver.
driver.
Yeah. And it's like, that's kind of true, right? And that shows her, naivety. She and him become friends. They go on a date. He shows her I think it's another Judy Garland picture.
It's Summer Stock, because she had mentioned that she hadn't seen Summer Stock yet because it came out in 1950.
Right.
So he hooked it up because of George. He contacted George, and I guess he got a hold of the movie.
Is that what it was? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I did, because she asked him, like, oh, how did you get this? And
how did you make this happen?
Yeah, and he just quickly.
Well, and they even have to lure her in as a prostitute to pretend like it's not a date. Like, the only way that she can actually come in, is if she's prostituting herself,
right?
Which is kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it is fucked up, but women back then.
Yeah, because even the Korean guy who's in the military is like, yeah, when I get done with her, she can even walk, like. I was like, what's about to happen? Like, I thought she was going to get gangbanged or something like that.
You could tell it was just to get her in.
Right, yeah. I'm just saying, like, I was like a little concerning there. So then they go to have sex, like on another date. He goes back to the blood popping room. She lights all her blood popping candles and gets ready for some fuck.
We have a room like that.
Yeah, we do not. Christina has 9 tails, guys. But she only uses 3. Imagine where they go. Anyway. Anyway, that really does make you imagine. So they go to have sex, and of course, Tick's like, yo, never got my dick wet. Sorry. And she's like, that's cool, I have. And he's like, like, calm down. Like, whoa. He's like, look, like I want to. I'm scared because, like, never done it. And, I feel really close to you. And that's why I want to be with you, is because I feel this close because you accept me for all these things that I'm not, for who I really am, and not the things that I've done. And then it clicks with her.
And then they get into it, and then she's like, get out.
Yeah, she's about to fucking kill him. And she's like, get out.
And then the mom runs in.
Yeah, and she's like, what the
fuck?
Did you get your fuck on? Why didn't you get your fuck on? There's not a drop of blood in here. Such a good mom, It's a good mom. Yeah, you put a curse on your daughter. She fucking pops about 100 dudes. No big deal, eh? Anyway. So she shows Tick about because she has this talk with her mom. And her mom's like, he only loves you because he doesn't know you have 9 tails. And she's like, oh, yeah, huh? So then she tries to show Tick the legend of the Kumiho. They make love, of course.
Just regular.
Right. This time he's a little more, like, aware of his functions, let's so say. So he's, like, taking command. And she's getting off on this. I noticed that, too. And that's when her tails start to come out. And she sucks on his eyeballs with her tails or whatever. And she sees, like, his whole life and, like, past his life, like,
or past
after
that present moment.
Right, where he's, like, there's a part where he's, like, getting baptized.
Yeah.
There was a part where he was pulling out her best friend's tooth. And then like, tied you guys can't see
chair.
It. But he's like it's not a chair, it's like a machine.
Oh, was it? I don't know. It looked like one of the surgical machines or surgical chairs.
I think what's going to happen is that Christina is going to get him trapped to a machine to use him as a key to open up some
portal or some bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to suck him dead or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't mean that sexually. Woo! As soon as that happens, he freaks out, of course, like anybody normal would freak out. But I think he overreacted a little bit. If you love somebody...
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah, look, I understand the tail thing, but come on. If you really love somebody...
Yeah, but I think there was some sort of feeling in there that he must have from, like, internal that he didn't unlock yet.
Maybe you're right. I don't know.
Of course I'm right. I'm always right.
It just seems kind of harsh that he just bailed on her after that and never spoke to her again, because that's what I got from it.
Well, she was yelling at him, you're gonna die. But
think of all the things that she could do with those tails without killing him. I'm just saying.
Okay, Alex.
I'm not into fucking furry porn, all right? Just chill out.
Just tentacles.
Oh, hentai now, I don't know. Anyway, that's when they come on with Judy Garland. Gia's mom finds her crying in her bedroom. She's submitted. She's like, fine, I'll do whatever the fuck you want. And then her mom kind of comes around instead of pushing her for the 100th kill, which she only needs one more.
Right.
They go back to the Mudang, the shaman woman. And the shaman woman's like, you realize what the fuck is about to happen, right? You come back to me without 100? You realize you're going to die. And so she's like, I take responsibility for my daughter. So she finally is a mom.
Right.
Finally.
Uh-huh.
And they play that Judy Garland speech. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Do you know what that's from? Or
it was an interview she did, which is funny. And
towards her death.
Yeah, towards her death.
Closer to, anyway.
So I thought it was funny that they used... At first, I thought it was funny that they used Judy Garland in this episode because, I mean, she wasn't really like... I want to say like a trailblazer for like women's rights.
Right.
Stuff like that. She was just kind of trying to get... by I don't know how else to say it.
I always thought she was a victim of fame. Like, isn't she? Like,
yeah.
I'm not trying to say she's a victim, but she did get shit on pretty heavily.
Oh yeah, she did a lot. Like she went through a lot, but she didn't really stand up for herself. That's my impression of it.
Right.
I haven't seen that movie. Or anything. I'm just from
this bait makes sense because,
because it relates to
right. You don't always have to be a perfect
character.
human.
But to me, I was like, oh, they picked Judy because it actually relates to this character where she's kind of trapped by her mom and what her mon did. And then Judy Garland was kind of trapped by like stardom and stuff like that to the point where... Well,
she put on this put on this picturesque life that Gia bought into.
Right.
Meanwhile, behind the scenes was dealing with a lot more.
Didn't put up the picture life, but
I'm saying Judy Garland.
Yeah, but she was very addicted to drugs, and that is ultimately what she overdosed.
Right.
On barbiturates.
Okay.
Yeah, she was 47 when she died, which was
47.
She was 47 when she died. 1969. Wow. She overdosed on barbiturates. Z drugs. For anxiety.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Aren't they like horse tranquilizers?
But she, for like 20 years, she had a real problem with alcohol and because she just couldn't handle it.
Well, I just mean the relationship of Judy Garland and the
stardom.
You could compare it to the American Dream, which is the picture like of Judy Garland on the screen, which is so perfect, picture perfect.
Right.
And also Gia buying into the American Dream while all this other shit's going on behind it. Same thing with Judy Garland. I don't know. I mean, that kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
And then the shaman woman, she, the Mudang or whatever, she's like, why would you come with one short? Why would you come to me with these with such, the repercussions? And Gia's like, she saw a vision of the future about Tick, and you could see the shaman's taken back a little bit, like, whoa.
Like, what are you? Yeah,
this is like what legend speaks of.
Right.
She burns a piece of paper with writing on it. We don't know what that piece of paper is. It's probably just some sort of spell or reset button. I don't know if she's resetting the 100 count for her so that she can use her powers still.
Yeah, that confused me too.
Or because she says, you'll see many more deaths on your journey.
Right.
And 100 deaths or something.
You have not become one with the darkness yet.
Yeah.
You will see countless deaths before your journey is done.
Well, there you go, folks. Can't get any more.
Now, I have a question. So, do you think she's going to come back? There's only
obviously
4 episodes left. Do you think she's going to come to America?
Fuck yeah, she is.
You think
because he called her on the episode before, on the 5th one, and he's like, who are you?
Right.
Where is she? Like Batman or some shit.
Yeah, but she was probably just trying to like check up on him to make sure he was still alive.
No, he called her because he found the words die.
Oh, yeah, and but in the first episode, wasn't there a phone call?
Yeah, it was much nicer than that one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. And
she hung up on him on the last episode.
Oh, yeah. And then in episode 2, she was the one he was fighting in the vision.
Right, because she told him, didn't she say something like, I forget the wordage that she used specifically, but she said, I told you kind of thing.
Right.
That's what I remember.
Right.
Like, I told you.
I told you this was going to happen.
Yeah, in which we find out, like, she tried to warn him that he was going to die, not to leave. We think about what he said to Letty in the tub, And he's like, I don't really know if I did love her, you know? I think he probably just wanted to escape. The torment that he had been
and then
there.
She was probably wanting to escape her torment as well.
So yeah.
That happens all the time in relationships.
I think she's going to come back for some reason.
Do you think she has to help him?
I don't know if she's going to come back this season, but I would think.
I don't know. There's just so much going on.
I know. It's like fucking hard to tell, but we still have yet to even fucking hear about, what's her name's? George's wife. Like her whole fucking story arc.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to hear hers.
Yeah, because I'm like, who else is left? There's really not many people left. It's got to be her story next one. And I saw the, coming next. I didn't listen because I didn't want to hear. But the next one is taking place in the desert or something like that.
Oh, I love the desert.
So I don't know.
The desert's my jam. We live in the desert. I love the desert.
Anyways.
One thing I forgot to mention, the actress in this, Jamie Chung, like I was like, oh, I recognize her. She's like really familiar. And I was like, oh, she was in Sucker Punch and The Hangover 2.
That's where I recognize her is from Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch. But you know how she started her career? The Real World San Diego, 2004. That was her first gig.
It was like season 10 or something. That's what we figured out.
San Diego. Did you remember San Diego? I kind of remember.
No, I don't know. I fucking tuned out after fucking.
But I just thought that
was the 90s.
I just thought that was interesting and good for her. I'm glad.
Yeah.
You go, Jamie.
She's really good. She's really talented.
She was really good. I hope I see more of her now.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what will happen between her and Tick, and obviously they're gonna play with that Letty, Tick, and her because they've been teasing it the whole fucking time. Because every time he gets close to her, he thinks about Gia.
Right.
So what do you guys think? I'm curious. This is a pretty straightforward episode. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's discussion on Lovecraft Country episode 6. Let us know what your theories are down in the comment section down below, and we'll be back, of course, on Tuesday for a new episode.
Episode 7.
And we're almost done. We're getting down to the last 3 or 4 more. So thank you so much for coming by, and as always,
long live the void.